Hi, folks. Good evening, and welcome to the DelDOT Virtual Public Workshop for Connecting the Route 9 Area Pedestrians and Communities. We were just giving folks a chance to log on and make sure they are getting their computer systems working and you can hear our audio. So I think we're about ready to go and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kelly Valensik, and I'm a planner here in the local systems section at DelDOT, and I'm going to be moderating the event today. Just before we get started, I want to remind folks that this event is being recorded for the audio and the video content, so we can post that on our website later on. So anybody that is not able to attend the event tonight can check that out later on at their own leisure. So just keep that in mind as we are going forward with any of your comments or questions. So tonight's presentation is going to be twofold. At about 5:10 or so, we are going to get started with our first presentation on the Eisenberg and McCullough Schools Safe Routes to School projects. And then we are going to pause and start another presentation at 6 o'clock on the local area Bizarre Avenue, or Bizarre, Anderson Drives, Morehouse Drives, and Hillview Avenue pedestrian routes for our Transportation Alternative Program projects. So there'll be two presentations tonight, and you're welcome to join one or both. And just so you know, the first one will start in about a minute or two here, and then the next one will be starting at 6 o'clock to let folks that wanted to just participate in the one on Bizarre Avenue, Anderson Drive, et cetera, join in for just that one. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So just to give you a brief agenda to look at here, as I said, my name is Kelly Valensik, and I'm going to be moderating the presentations today. So I'm going to be your MC that is talking in between the presenters and helping to navigate any of the comments and questions that are coming into our chat box. And then in a few minutes, we'll be hearing the Safe Routes to School presentations from Thomas or Chip Nebel, who is our product manager here at DelDOT. And then just after 6, we'll allow folks a minute to join in or so. We're going to be hearing from Mike Hahn, who is our planning supervisor here at DelDOT, as well as some of the folks that have been helping us with these projects, Lindsay Yule from the Rossi Group and Lauren Barcina from the Rossi Group as well. And just some guidelines for you as participants as we are moving forward on the presentations. I want to let you all know that we have muted you on entry so that our audio line stays clear and the presenters can focus on their presentations and we don't have any background noise that's showing up and taking away from our audio presentations. So if you do have comments or questions, we're asking you to please type them into the chat box. And you can find that by looking in the gray webinar WebEx bar. And there's a box there that looks like a little quotation image. And if you click on that, you can open your chat box and then type in questions there to either the panelists or whoever you want to ask them to at that time. We will have designated question and answer time at the end of each of the speakers' presentations. So we're going to be saving any questions that come into those chat boxes for the end of those presentations, and then we'll go through them at that point in time. And just to note again, our presentation is being recorded and will be posted on our website. So please let folks know that if they weren't able to attend this evening, they can check out the presentation at a later time. You can share that with your friends and family and neighborhoods so we get the information about the projects out there. And then, of course, if we don't get to your question in the chat box because of time limitations this evening, we can certainly follow up with you later. So you're welcome to send us your contact information if you'd like to have a more in-depth discussion or talk one-on-one with one of our staff that's on the call this evening. And then we also have a comment form or online survey link that we'd like you to check out too at the end of this presentation to give us some more detailed feedback on specific things about each of the projects. And that link is also on our website, so you might have seen that link as you are finding the WebEx log-on information. And we'll also display it at the end of our presentations this evening as well. So you'll be able to fully type in some of your thoughts and feedback on specific aspects of the project. So with that all said, we're going to turn over and do one of our presentations here on a Safe Routes to School project. So bear with me as I switch what I'm sharing on my screen, and we're going to get started with Chip's presentation. Chip, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out or staying home, as it were. I'm going to be presenting, I'm just going to go through both the Eisenberg Elementary and the McCullough Middle School presentations and then take questions for either one at the end. We're going to do this pretty quickly, but just so everyone knows, this is, we're actually in design with these projects. So this is, the purpose of this meeting is to really, or this presentation is to really present what's going to be built and where we are in that process. We had a public workshop during the concept about a year ago, a little over a year ago. So we presented a bunch of different options and then sought feedback from the public and, of course, the school and parents. And what we're presenting today is the outcome of those meetings. So we're going to start with Eisenberg, which is right here, the corner of Landers Lane and Glen Avenue. This is the Route 9 corridor. The objectives for the project here are to provide safety and walkability for students and residents, remove barriers, which really means kind of improving certain aspects of the sidewalks or curb ramps and things to pedestrian and bike access where appropriate, and upgrading where necessary to meet the ADA guidelines. Looking at the existing conditions, this is actually right across from the school where the buses come in. You can see that there's no curb ramp there. So those are the sorts of things that we're going to be building to improve things. The currently arrival and dismissal modes, we've got cars, buses, pedestrians, and bicycles all showing up at the beginning at arrival and dismissal. So what we're trying to do is mitigate conflict between those modes. And a lot of the sidewalk ramps and sidewalks themselves are not ADA compliant. And again, just kind of mitigating the conflict points between pedestrians, bicyclists, the cars and the buses, and improving the crosswalks that are either there and are in poor condition or don't exist at all. So I'm going to go back and forth between this slide and just an aerial photograph. So the planned improvements that we have are a four-way stop at Glen and Stam Boulevard. So again, this is the school, if everyone can see the cursor. Glen and Stam is right here. As it is now, there's a stop sign in three directions, on both directions on Glen and coming this way from Stam. But inbound on Stam does not have a stop condition. So we wanted to add a stop sign there to make it a four-way stop. We're going to put some signage up for some parking restrictions along Glen Avenue. Again, that's really right in this area. We've had problems in the past with the school buses all coming this way. Car drop-off is to the south here. We've had issues with drivers, car riders coming this way and getting dropped off. And the majority of our walkers are coming from in this neighborhood back here. So the majority of the pedestrian traffic is coming this way and entering the school right here at this crossing. So to mitigate some of that parking and car issue, we're posting parking restrictions in that area. Going back to that, again, so the improvements to the mid-block crossing at Glen Avenue, that's this one. As was seen in the picture, there's no ramp there. I don't think this one is compliant, so we're gonna just improve this all around so that it meets our Americans with Disabilities Act. And then We've proposed speed humps on Glen Avenue, here and here, just again to slow cars down and buses as kids are all trying to cross here, just to remind people that this is a school zone and they need to slow down. So some of the ramp upgrades at Dyer Avenue and Linstone Avenue, some of these have actually been done. This is Linstone. We were looking at ramp upgrades here and here. Some of that work is already done from a water main or water utility work that was being done, and they appear to be compliant, but we'll double check that and make sure. We're also adding some school pavement markings and additional school signs on Landers Lane, which is this, again, right here. So marking the school zone better, both on the pavement and on signs. We have listed here speed humps on Landers Lane, working with our traffic system. We've got a lot of, those aren't necessarily set in stone. We're working through some of the warrants, whether they'd actually be a viable option. But as it is right now, we're shooting for it just to slow cars down because they do tend to go pretty quickly. We have a lot more data to collect, speed data and crash data and things before we can actually make the call that speed bumps are really needed. So those are essentially the planned improvements for Eisenberg. If you have any questions, again, I'd ask you to save them until after I get through with McCullough. So this is McCullough, just down the road, or right up Route 9. It's between Memorial Drive and 295 off of Route 9. Again, very similar goals: provide safety and walkability for students and residents, remove the barriers for pedestrian and bike access, and improve ADA compliance. Very similar to Eisenberg again, we've got arrival and dismissal modes of cars, school buses, bikes, and pedestrians all coming in on one road. So we're taking a look at the sidewalks and ramps that are not ADA compliant along the most traveled parts of the route for the children, and looking at the conflict points between pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles near the school, and of course crosswalks that are missing or in need of improvement. So again, I'm going to go back and forth between these two slides here, but primary focus is going to be on these 4 intersections. Chase and Winder, we're actually going to be rebuilding crosswalks and the crosswalk and curb ramps here on the left side of the intersection, so that pedestrians coming in will be here because they come up the sidewalk and into the school. Right now there's a crosswalk here, but it's not really being utilized because of all the traffic during arrival and dismissal going through the intersection. The kids are just crossing here anyway. So we want to provide an actual crosswalk to make sure that everybody knows that that's an appropriate place to cross and that the cars are aware that children could be crossing there. Halcyon and Chase Avenue. So we're also looking at crosswalk and curb upgrades here and at this intersection, Halcyon and Chase. So we'd have a crosswalk across Chase and across Halcyon. And then at Lind Avenue, we've got some curb ramp upgrades to do as well. And then the only other thing we're doing there is replacing the school signs. The school zone signage is just outdated. It's like not as reflective. It's worn out. It's not the proper size. It doesn't meet our current standards. So we're upgrading the signage for the school zone. And that's essentially it. I wanted to make it quick, kind of throw everything out there, and then leave plenty of time for questions if you have any. If you don't have it right now, but maybe you think of something later, this is my email and my phone number. Feel free to drop me an email or a call with any questions. Of course, you can always reach out to community relations. But if anybody has anything right this minute, we can take it in the chat box on the WebEx. And thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Chip, for that presentation. I am looking at the chat box right now, and I don't see any questions right away, so we'll give a few minutes if you guys think of anything that comes out. Yep, I don't see anything right now. So, Chip, feel free to add in anything if you think of something, or we will just
yeah, just
let it stay open.
Schedule-wise, I think we'd be looking at construction, you know, next construction season, spring, summer.
Question from Bill Switek. Thanks, Chip. Can you talk a little bit about where the project ideas came from? And two, how they were developed? Were community members involved?
Yeah, sure. Bill, we've got a question about how we got to the ideas that we're currently developing. This was a really great joint effort between WMAPCO, the school, a number of parents, just kind of brainstorming. We did a walkthrough early on, identified some of the problem areas, took all those different ideas and then took them out to the public workshop to see what people kind of thought was the most important. From that, after that process, we took a look at what we could actually accomplish with this first phase of construction, and what we landed on were what I just presented. Community members were definitely involved. We had parents, teachers, and just other members of the school system and some local representatives. I hope that answers your question, Bill.
Okay. All right, those are the questions that we have so far. So let us know if you think of any other ones. Chip is going to be on standby for a bit here. And I'm going to switch the screens because the next presentation that we are going to have is going to be from MyCon, and it's going to be at 6 o'clock on the Bizarre Avenue project for the Transportation Alternative Program. So if you want to be on standby with your call, feel free to hang out, or you're welcome to hang up and then dial back in at 6 o'clock, and we'll be presenting again at that point. So thank you all for participating in the presentation for the Safe Routes to Schools, and we look forward to getting any of your comments and feedback later on.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, folks. Just want to welcome you all again to our DelDOT virtual public workshop. This one is going to be on the Transportation Alternative Program projects on Dyer Avenue, Anderson Drive, Morehouse Drive, and Hillview Avenue. I just want to take a moment to introduce myself and go over a bit of our procedures that we're going to be following for our virtual workshop here, since we can't be live in person with you all. First of all, my name is Kelly Valencic, and I am a planner with DelDOT, and I'm going to be our MC for today and be working behind the scenes to make sure all your questions in the question box and in the chat box get over to our presenters. In just a moment here, I will turn it over to Mike Hahn, who is our planning supervisor here at DelDOT, to do the presentation, and then we'll also be hearing from some of our consultants with the Rossi Group, Lindsay Ewell and Laura Barcina as well. But before we get started, I wanted to go through just a couple of the procedures that we're going to be following today because we are virtual, and remind folks that everybody is muted so that our audio stays clear and we don't have any background noise that will be distracting our speakers or taking away from what you all as participants can hear. So if you do have questions or comments for any of the presenters, please use the chat box to type those in, and we will get to those. At the end of the presentations, we are going to have designated question time at the end of all of the speakers. So if you have a question, you can type it right in at any time, but we will not be answering those until the end. I also just want to note that the presentation is being recorded, both the audio and visual, so we can post it on our website for anybody who is not able to attend this evening. So please let your friends and neighbors know if they missed it, they have another chance to catch the information at their own time. And if we don't, for some reason, get to your question in the chat box, or you think of a question later on, we can always follow up with you later. So please feel free to reach out to us. We're going to provide you our contact information and phone numbers and email. So we're happy to take your questions or comments and speak with you at a later time. We also ask that you please follow the link that we're going to provide you to an online comment form. It's an online survey that has more directed questions about some of the projects that we're going to be presenting to you tonight. So please fill that out with your thoughts and any of your feedback that you might want to share with us. That'll really help direct our work as we move forward on this project. So I am going to switch over the presentations here and hand over the microphone in just a moment as soon as I pull them up to Mike Hahn, who's our planning supervisor here.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kelly. Again, my name is Michael Hahn, and I work in DelDOT's planning office. I'm one of the local systems planning supervisors, and tonight we're going to give an overview. It's very conceptual right now. We're in conceptual planning stages for the non-motorized transportation improvements to Bizarre Drive, Anderson Drive, Morehouse Drive, and Hillview Avenue, which has been identified as a transportation alternatives project, which is our system here in local systems where we run non-motorized sidewalk, streetscapes, bikeway, other non-motorized enhancements, which are community-driven projects. So again, I just want to welcome everyone tonight that is out there in the audience listening in. I will try to present tonight as though you're actually listening on the telephone as well. So some stuff I just might repeat, even though you might see it on the picture, but I don't know specifically who might be calling in and just listening. Again, I'll just go over some of the stuff on a basic perspective, and our Rossi group also is going to chime in and talk about the proposals too. So I would anticipate that to kind of be kind of slow, just to make sure that folks are following, at least from a telephone perspective. So again, this is a transportation alternatives project, or our program within DelDOT and Federal Highways, FHWA, including a local sponsor match, which has been identified as Newcastle County. And I'll go into explanation on that. What exactly does it mean? Because I think we do have some folks calling in from our sponsorship from Newcastle County. So I just want to be able to explain that at least to the rest of the audience, what this TAP program means. So a little bit is overview here, but let me just reassure you, we realize that the virtual workshop is very difficult to try and convey information. We are going to do extra steps in the future towards things, but at least from tonight's presentation, again, a little bit of it is what Kelly had indicated. Definitely type in a question in your chat box, or raise hands. If you can't type it in, we'll get to you at the very end. Either we'll unmute you and you can speak or have a chance to speak at the very end, or you can type it in and we ultimately can get to you. I also have the reason why we don't have our television camera on or our computer camera on is because Chip, Kelly, and myself are confined to one room here, social distancing. So we didn't necessarily want to present with our masks on. So, but if we decide to do that at the very end for the Q&A, then so be it. So, you know, it's not that we didn't take a shower or anything like that the night before or the day before, but we're all here in one room here practicing social distance. So we just thought it was appropriate not to show our faces with masks on. So anyway, just so you know, for tonight's presentation or in the future, you folks are always welcome to email me about the project or projects, and Chip and I can collaborate together with the emails at the end. Or you can call me. My number's there. Don't call during the presentation, please. I did put it on mute, so I'll turn it up at the end in case folks really do need to call me. But it's 302-760-2131. Again, that's 760-2131 on the area code 302. That'll get you directly here on the cell phone. We'll leave like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes in case people really want to call in if they have a question, realizing that there's, you know, different formats. As Kelly said earlier, we do have a comment form, and we'll go to the very end. We'll show you that. It's a SurveyMonkey questionnaire, kind of what's going on today with the proposals, what you like, what you didn't like, perhaps the virtual meeting format, what some of the things that we could have done better, et cetera, and some demographic information. So I'm just going to say, please remember to fill out that. And again, our presentation materials are all on our TAP webpage. Actually, this webpage, I don't want to try it out for fear of like jumping over, but if you saw that, you saw the little pointer. All the presentations, if you download it from the DelDOT website under the TAP projects or under the project website where you initially signed up through the WebEx, our presentation materials are there. So again, when you go to them and download the PDF, there are a series of active or live web links, which I'll get to. So again, if you wanted to go to the project website for the, you know, not only the TAP project tonight, but the safe routes, it's there. Go to the TAP, and then on the left-hand side, menu link, it's active projects, and then you'll screen down to the specific project. All right, so one of the things that we always have to go through with the public workshops is the DelDOT mission statement. So this should be real quick. Every trip, every mode, every dollar, every one. So we just want to make sure that there's excellence in transportation. So we have to give our little shout out in terms of our mission statement because we think it's important, and it is. All right, so tonight's agenda. So let me give a TAP project overview towards things. Again, the genesis of our TAP project for Bazaar, Anderson, Morehouse, and Hillview. Its project purpose, the existing conditions that are out there, and perhaps a lot of you are familiar with the area. So again, some of it might be a general overview, but again, we thought it was important to go over that. And then obviously our Rossi group with Lindsay and Laura are going to go over the proposed or potential improvements. And again, this is where we seek feedback from you all in terms of some of the options to add to that, or, hey, we don't like that, why don't we try something else? So again, this is very conceptual planning stages. We're looking for ideas related to complementing streetscapes for the roads that we identified. And then following, we got the next steps and questions by the audience, which of course, is going to happen at the end. All right, so let me give a little bit of the TAP overview, following the agenda. The first bullet is define a TAP qualified project, work with the MPO to have it approved, have a willing sponsor, and upfront community-based support. So what exactly does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. So our TAP projects, similar within our DelDOT programs, we work with FHWA. It's a dedicated source of funding, again, through the FAST Act transportation bill. DelDOT has about $2.8 million of federal funds, and I think there's about $1 million of state funds that are involved in it. So these are for these TAP projects, transportation alternatives, which are community-based projects. And again, this is one of them. What happens is there's an application process when you go to DelDOT's website or Will Mapco's website, which we'll get into in a minute, with the TAP projects, non-motorized transportation improvements. So part of the TAP program, the requirements is to have a willing sponsor. There are certain qualifiers for that. And so this is really, your sponsor is really Newcastle County, along with the community, and again, the genesis of this project, which we'll follow into in a minute or two. But again, it's community-based projects. You have a sponsor. The sponsor requirements out of the TAP program is a 20% construction match. I had mentioned that there's a $2.8 annual million budget, at least federal participation in the TAP. So about half of it does go to Newcastle County for these projects, the other half to the other states. But nevertheless, the sponsor's responsibility is a 20% match at both design and construction. And typically our TAP projects, we try to limit projects to about $1 million. So hopefully with this project here, we get close to $1 million. Again, it's coordination with the sponsor, Newcastle County, at 20%, because we realize a lot of the towns or municipalities may have been hit hard with COVID-19 in terms of extra funding their budgets. So we kind of took a conservative approach, at least tonight, in terms of presenting the concept. So at least that way it's not extremely overwhelming. We do need to coordinate with the sponsor, Newcastle County, and the community in terms of the improvements which we're presenting tonight. But again, if you can get something at a 20% match up to $1 million, I mean, the only thing is you need to contribute $200,000, but then $800,000 is FHWA. So that's a pretty good deal. So that's a little bit about the TAP project overview. I put a little pointer finger. This is where we're at in terms of our stages. We are concept planning. So we really need to determine what the upfront scopes are. We have some ideas which we're throwing out tonight, but we want to help define it as well as determine a preliminary cost based on that scope. Real quick, the picture on the right-hand side is the map that was submitted through Newcastle County during their TAP application. You see in kind of a red circle, you may not be able to see it that well, but there's a number of different streetscape or sidewalk projects that we have identified. But we took 1, 2, and 6 out of the initial application. We think it was good in terms of trying to realize a realistic funding towards things on that. So that's our path forward. So to get back with the TAP project, there is design engineering and further outreach, and obviously we refine it. So this may not be the first time tonight that you're going to see some type of overview with our project. There's construction costs and details that we end up doing. Again, a lot of it is back and forth with the sponsor to make sure that the 20% is achieved, because that is the requirement under the TAP project, at least currently right now under this transportation bill. So as I mentioned, there's sponsor and community confirmation towards things at each particular step. So we just want to make sure that those elements, and again, we're at the very first stages towards things. So again, we welcome the feedback, at least from our very first stages of outreaching to the sponsor as well as local community members that are on the line. So really under design and sponsorship, confirmation, there's project advertisement and ultimately construction. So at the very end, typically this is going to take about a year, maybe a little bit more based upon the timing right now and the conditions with COVID. So typically our TAP projects like this, which have three locations, design, confirmation, sponsorship, back and forth, community outreach, it's about a year, maybe a little bit more for everything to be, you know, in planning to construction, and then ultimately it's finished. And then maybe we go with another project. All right, so again, just to make sure the folks out there know exactly where they're at geographically, we got to have a location map. So I've provided a location map. So Route 9 or Newcastle Avenue is basically in the middle of your screen. Morehouse Drive, which is basically this one side of the TAP project, is right here. We got the restaurant store. Folks can see my arrow. I'm moving it around on the north end of Morehouse. The Bolarama and Bolarama businesses on the south end with Bolarama Drive. Try saying that 10 times. Basically in the middle of the screen. The Route 9 library on the right-hand side. This is a little bit older aerial photograph, so we know that the Route 9 library has been open for quite some time. The Rose Hill Community Center kind of on the upper right-hand side with Hillview Avenue right below my arrow. We got Memorial Drive on the left-hand side, and there's Bazaar, and then it forms into Anderson. So it's Bazaar, a little bit of Anderson, because it kind of migrates at the intersection there. Morehouse Drive and Hillview Avenue is our TAP project for streetscapes. I also located at least some of the neighborhoods for some of the folks that are out there listening. This primarily, the TAP project is Simon's Gardens and obviously Dunleaf as well. Maybe a little bit of Rose Hill Gardens because it does actually cross over into the north side past Memorial Drive. But, you know, Garfield Park is on your lower left-hand side and Holloway Terrace is on your lower right-hand side with Simon's Gardens again, you know, kind of in the center, and Mayview Manor on your upper right-hand side. So geographically, we're kind of in the middle of the Route 9 corridor in terms of the streetscape improvements. At least I consider it, you know, the centralized area. Chip Knievel, the earlier presentation, the McCullough School is a little bit further south. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit south of Garfield Park. So again, the project does have a close connection to the safe routes, which we'll get into, but you know, it's within the Garfield Park region. So project purpose. So let's talk about that. So again, we have this TAP project, but then how did the TAP project originate? It actually originates through the, you know, great efforts of the Route 9 Corridor Master Plan established by Wilmapco and Newcastle County when they undertook a land use and transportation master plan. Part of that identified a trails and path plan, which actually originated from that out of a Route 9 walkable community workshop. So don't worry, the websites are provided, so I'll go over them slowly, but just to let you know, the TAP project evolved out of the Route 9 Land Use and Transportation Master Plan as a component within the trails and pathways. That's what you really need to know, or that's what's really important. Really, within the area, and a lot of folks probably already know this, so I might be repeating the obvious, provide pedestrian safety and livability improvement for all users. Remove barriers to pedestrian and bike access where appropriate. Enhance access to nearby community facilities, that is libraries, parks, religious institutions, community services, jobs, and other neighborhoods. So again, our effort with the TAP is to provide safe, accessible transportation improvement or upgrades within the area for all the area, for whatever it is, residential, jobs, walkability, transit, whatever it may be. And another project purpose, obviously, is the compliance with the American Disabilities Act and some of their design guidelines. We'll get into the pictures in a second, but obviously, if you know the conditions, there's missing gaps. That's not ADA compliant, or the curb ramps are broken, or the sidewalk is deteriorated. Those are certain things that really are incompatible with, the project purpose as well as the ADA Act. So a little bit more about the origination of the Route 9 and Land Use Transportation Master Plan. Additional project purposes. And again, I am part of the Route 9 Monitoring Committee, so some of this might be repetitious for some folks that are out there already listening. But again, it's important to convey this information as we just want to enhance the area with the Transportation Improvement Project, the TAP project. Other purposes might be enhance the gateway aesthetics while repairing the existing facilities. Again, you all know the conditions out there. Some of them are in need of repair, so the purpose of the project is really to tackle what really should have been repaired or enhanced years ago. The middle bullet point, a little bit what Chip talked about with the project purpose is, the safe routes, the school is important. So again, this is 1 block away or 2 blocks away. So again, where are all these folks going to? There's a different array of audiences, but we just want to make sure that we're stating the purpose of this project is really its compatibility with all the other trails and paths identified in the Route 9 plan, as well as what we're doing right now with the safe routes. And the last bullet there is to provide designated bicycle safety awareness and other enhancements as or if appropriate. So again, we're thinking walkability, but there's also bikeability and streetscape enhancements behind that, at least some of the thoughts here with the conceptual improvements here. Okay, so other shout out factors here. So again, WMAPCO in Newcastle County developed the Route 9 Master Plan, and again, these are live links, so I just want to give some shout out, since this is an ongoing process with WMAPCO, is the Trails and Path Plan. They just recently developed a new survey since we went back from that 2017 Master Plan and refined a couple things in terms of prioritization. So WMAPCO asked, hey, could you provide the live link? And that's not a problem. That's a live link if we wanted to test it out. To go into the Route 9 Corridor Master Plan for the Trails and Path Plan. That goes to the Route 9. And again, the very last bullet down at the bottom, again, for those folks that are probably getting hard copies of this, are unable to make a computer access where maybe they just see a hard copy of it, there's the Route 9 stuff to figure out the trails and pathways, the Route 9 Master Plan. There's other things with the monitoring committee. There's subcommittees involved with health. There's on-the-job training. So I just want to give the project purpose. Again, it's coming out of this Route 9 Corridor Master Plan. Out of that Master Plan, again, we got one of the TAP projects, which we're talking about today. But I just want to let folks know in the audience that there is a larger capital transportation improvement for Route 9 scheduled for fiscal year 23. So what does that mean? So our TAP projects are pretty minor in comparison to a major capital project. So what we do with the TAP project is accelerated tremendously with the capital transportation improvement. We might take on several blocks. Again, we have money budgeted, and it's in our capital transportation plan. So I just want to give a shout out. There is a link to that, which you can provide information or get information on on the larger Route 9 improvement, which also would carry forward streetscape and safety improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists, or other enhancements such as landscaping or streetscapes. So that is the Route 9 Corridor Land Use and Transportation Master Plan. Like I mentioned, the genesis of everything talking about tonight. There's the Walkable Community Workshop, which is kind of like the very beginning origins of identifying the transportation, pedestrian, safety issues within the Route 9 corridor. And again, the project purpose, I serve as part of the monitoring committee. Part of this virtual workshop was providing updates, and obviously now we're at concept stage, in terms of providing the monitoring committee with updates on a monthly basis. And there are a number of key stakeholders involved. And again, when you go to the Route 9, the WMAPCO one, the very bottom website, you'll see who that monitoring committee is. There's various stakeholders. So let's talk about existing conditions a little bit. So just to let folks know, there's multimodal uses. I mean, there's cars, there's freight trucks, there's transit routes within our corridor, there's lots of pedestrians, and obviously there's bicyclists as well. So again, it's being used by everyone, at least in the general audience of what's out there. There are connections to neighborhoods. Now, they're not great, but they do exist. You know, sometimes you have to go around, and then you have to get on Route 9 main line. You just can't cut through certain subdivisions to go where you want to go. But at least the capabilities or the infrastructure is there where you are able to walk around. Now, again, the third bullet is the sidewalk network has gaps, and some segments and ramps are in poor condition or are not ADA compliant. So again, you can still get around, but it depends how you want to get around or how, you know, what your capabilities are of walking or biking or getting to transit, whatever it may be. So just want to say the connections do exist. They're not great, and obviously we're here to make improvements. The landscaping could be improved in some areas. You'll see by the pictures. There is some vegetation overgrowth and drainage and discharge swales. Some of you already know that, some of it over by the Bolorama. There are crosswalks missing or in need of improvement. And some of the existing roadway widths are narrow in some areas to accommodate on-street parking or through travel. So we've walked through, we've driven through our project locations, and there are folks that park up on the sidewalk. Again, if there's comments about that, please put that down in terms of measures to break down barriers of people parking along sidewalks, which then force the pedestrian out on the street. We know that there's DART stops. We know that there's school bus stops, at least when school's open. And obviously a lot of people walk around too as well. So we don't necessarily want them walking out on the street. Obviously there's a safety issue behind that. So here's some of the existing conditions. Let me first point you down to the legend, so at least that way you understand this map. The blue dots represent DART stops. And I can say we actually did get the information from DART in terms of the frequency of DART users. This is pre-COVID, so again, it was kind of a realistic approach. And obviously, Route 9 is a very busy transit corridor. Most of the stops where people get on and off are directly on Route 9. There is a very small audience going through Morehouse and then Morehouse Drive because it goes into Dunleaf and then kind of loops around. And Memorial Drive is a kind of a popular stop too. So we know folks within the neighborhoods are typically going out to the main line to catch transit because some of the transit runs throughout the neighborhoods, and if you're already walking to a transit stop, you might as well go to the main line because you know the bus is going to loop around anyway. At least that was my thought behind some things. Again, but if there's transit improvements that we need to do within the corridor, please put that down. We will work with DART on things. We've had some outreach. Again, the main line is really in terms of transit. Again, we know folks are going to different destinations. I think it's DART routes 14, 15. Oh, I had it written down. It's either 47 or 51. But again, the most popular is really coming out to Route 9, but the general audience is coming from the neighborhoods or some of the jobs that are there as well, and then wherever they need to go. So the dash line is the existing sidewalk. Whether or not that was in good shape or bad shape, the dash line represents where a sidewalk is within our project area. Obviously, no sidewalk represents a missing gap, and does that need to be addressed? Did I cover everything there? I think I did. So again, this is Route 9, this is Route 9 Library, Bolorama, Morehouse. So the pictures coming up, I'm going to start at Morehouse and then go to Bazaar, and then Hillview will be next in terms of the existing conditions. So again, this is kind of the map, and again, everything is available on the website if you wanted to take a look at this later, or during Q&A, if we needed to go back to a slide, we certainly can. So we took a couple pictures out in the field. You notice right here, if you're following my arrow, the sidewalk is here. This is Route 9. We're at Morehouse Drive, but there's we always call it planner's terms, is like a goat path. So we know that there's frequent use of not necessarily going around the corner, but using a straight line. There's potential opportunity there to enhance that area, so just want to let folks know. And on the opposite side, or the other side, where Bolorama is our Dunleith entrance sign. Again, it's there. You can notice some of the cattails or phragmites with the drainage swale. There's no landscaping. Just to let folks know, there's always a maintenance issue when it comes down to landscaping, but I just wanted to bring that up. But again, the sign is there, but could it be enhanced to serve as a gateway? Those are some ideas. Again, following Morehouse again, this is looking towards Route 9. This is a little bit further away. Where my arrow is, if you can see me, that's where the Dunleith sign is. So I just stood back maybe about, 850 feet or so from the area. You notice the school buses too. This is kind of a cartway. Again, you have a separate right-hand turn to get southbound Route 9, and then there's a shared through and a left for where the school buses are. And again, there is some trucks there beyond the school buses because of the Bolorama Drive and the restaurant store. So there is a bunch of deliveries going on. There's the DART route and obviously school buses. So this is the picture on the right-hand side is from Morehouse Drive at Bolorama Drive. There's a mid-block crossing. You can kind of see that a little bit where that fire hydrant is on the left-hand side, but essentially the sidewalk ends there because it does get narrow. There is a little bit more narrow right away. There's some drainage areas, and then it kind of gets into a person's backyard or side yard there. So it was never really built originally. So one is forced to do a kind of a mid-block crossing, go across the street, and then continue into Dunleith. So that's looking towards Bazaar Drive, just the existing site conditions. So then, again, we went from Morehouse Drive to Bazaar. So this is the area where there is some missing sidewalk, or sidewalk turns into like 3 or 4 feet at these locations. So we have Bazaar Drive between Morehouse and Parma Avenue, which is where the housing development is that, I forgot it already. I had it written down. But anyway, it lacks a sidewalk, and this continues further up from Parma Avenue, almost looking at not Morehouse. No, Memorial Drive, I'm sorry. Yeah, Memorial Drive. This is looking into Memorial Drive in the background, again, this is a sidewalk as it narrows down, so you're almost at the housing development that doesn't have sidewalk, which I'll look up the name in a second, unless someone wants to type it in the chat box. So again, this is Bazaar Drive and Parma Avenue and Briar Cliff looking towards Parma Avenue. Again, there's a missing sidewalk link. And then this is from Memorial Drive looking into Bazaar Drive, towards Briar Cliff. But you notice the sidewalk there, not in very good shape. The grades have changed. There's standing mud or leaves or whatever you want to call it. We do have some good signs out there. Obviously, we got a school sign, or at least, kids playing as you approach the neighborhood. Speed limit's 25, which is supposed to be low. Whether or not everyone follows that, that's another thing. That's another idea. And then obviously the trucks over 5,000 pounds, except local service. So that's also on Morehouse too. So some of the signing is not too bad. At least it's there. The sidewalk conditions are not necessarily there. So, all right, so let me jump over to Hillview Avenue between the Rose Hill Community Center and the library. There's not much there to provide the cross access between the two major community areas. The sidewalks are in poor shape, they're substandard, and there really isn't any crossing towards things. So just to let folks know the existing conditions on Hillview. One more picture there. So this is approaching Route 9 on the left-hand side, Hillview Avenue. This is almost where the library is, or at least across the street. And then looking back towards 6th Street on Hillview Avenue from the library. There's not a particular crossing there between the two major community centers. So again, some of the proposed improvements are looking at ways to provide that access or improve that access. So I will turn it over to Laura and Lindsay from the Rossi Group, and they will go into some of the ideas or concepts of what we proposed for the TAP project, based on looking at the existing conditions.
Thanks,
so I'll
Mike.
turn it over to them. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. So hi, I'm Lindsay Yule. I'm a junior traffic engineer with Rossi Group. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the potential improvements that could be used to achieve some of the goals of this project. As Mike said, we are looking to enhance pedestrian access and connectivity and improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Some proposed improvements include replacing or installing new sidewalk along Bazaar Drive in some areas where there are gaps currently, and also between Memorial Drive and Morehouse Drive. Also replacing sidewalk along Hillview Drive, along the eastbound lanes east of the library entrance, leading up to the Rose Hill Community Center. Replacing existing sidewalk curb ramps where they are not ADA compliant. Potentially adding bike facility markings or sharrows along Morehouse Drive. There's a picture of a sharrow here. And we're also looking at potentially striping crosswalks that are located within the project limits between either current or proposed curb ramps, just to draw more attention to places where pedestrians will be crossing. And as Mike mentioned, also looking at landscaping Morehouse Drive to enhance the entrance into the community, which would then require a maintenance agreement and sponsor. Next slide. Hello, next slide. And then there we go. And then this is just a map kind of summarizing all of the proposed improvements that we just mentioned. In the legend, you can see that we have noted where there is existing sidewalk and we're not proposing improvements, where there's existing sidewalk and we are proposing improvements, where there's no sidewalk and where there's no sidewalk and we are proposing sidewalk. Also calling out existing curb ramps where we are proposing improvements or replacement, and where we're not, or where we are proposing to install new curb ramps and the potential landscaping areas. So we're looking to make improvements kind of where it makes the most sense to provide better pedestrian access. This includes along Bazaar Drive, replacing sidewalk, as Mike showed in some of the pictures, south of Parma Avenue, leading down to Memorial Drive on both sides, where it narrows down and the sidewalk isn't in the best condition. And there are also segments along Bazaar Drive where sidewalk is not currently, and we're proposing to add sidewalk to close some of those gaps. And in most cases where we're looking at replacing sidewalk, we are going to be touching the curb ramps if necessary, if they are not ADA compliant. And then adding crosswalk markings across the crosswalks. And then along Morehouse Drive, there is currently sidewalk, and in most areas it is in good shape and it's wide. We are looking at striping the crosswalk, restriping the crosswalks at the mid-block intersection by the Signature Furniture driveway, as there isn't a very easy way to add sidewalk east of there along Morehouse Drive on the north side up to Anderson. So we just want to make sure that pedestrians are able to cross the street to get to that acceptable sidewalk on the south side. And then across Route 9 on Hillview Avenue, there are already ADA compliant pedestrian facilities leading up to the new Route 9 library. As Mike mentioned, we just don't have updated aerial. So we're not going to be touching or not proposing touching the sidewalk immediately leading up to the library. However, on the south side of Hillview Avenue, we would like to replace the sidewalk between the library and the Rose Hill Community Center access road, and then provide new curb ramps at the Community Center access road to put in a crosswalk for pedestrians to safely cross Hillview Avenue.
Did we lose Lindsay or not?
Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Was that, you couldn't hear me?
Yep, just for a second.
Yeah, just for a second. I'm sorry. Maybe the audience didn't hear, but
Oh,
we didn't
sorry.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
I thought I took it off mute. No, this is Laura Barsina.
Okay.
So one thing I want to touch on real quick at the concept development phase is we basically take a look at what's out there, try to determine what the deficiencies are, where there are gaps, where the sidewalk might not be wide enough, and then kind of start from there with determining what the proposed improvements may need to be for the project. So what we're going to do in these next few slides is kind of give you an idea of what some of these improvements may end up looking like. And so what these slides will do will help visually depict some of these options. So in this slide right here, what we're showing is photo taken along Morehouse Drive. So Route 9 is essentially behind the person taking the photo. And we're looking towards, you'll see on the right-hand side is the entrance or the driveway for the restaurant store. So right here just kind of shows you what's existing. And in the next slide, here is an example of what some of the improvements may end up looking like. So you'll see, you know, going in line with what Lindsay had talked about, the sidewalk at this location is in good condition. It's the sufficient width. So we wouldn't be doing any work to the sidewalk at this location, but you'll see on the pavement, we have some of those sharrows shown. And the Morehouse Drive was identified in the Route 9 master plan as a on-road bicycle facility. So there wouldn't be a dedicated bike lane, but it would be more of a share the road type facility. So that is an option for one of the improvements. And then you'll see here on the other side of the sidewalk are some potential landscape improvements. You know, but with the addition of some bushes, potentially some fencing. Here we've just shown the example of a split rail fence. Obviously there's other options, but just to kind of give you a general idea of what this may end up looking like. Moving on to the next slide, what you'll notice, really the only difference in this one was swapping out that fence with some tree plantings. You know, just something to kind of get people thinking of what some of the improvements could be. And, yeah, you know, there are options that can be considered, but just kind of give you a feel for that. In the next picture, we're at a different location. So in this picture, we're on Bazaar Drive. We're looking north. So we are, what you see, that cross street up to the left is Parma Avenue, and Briar Cliff Drive is to the south, basically kind of behind the person taking the picture. The next slide will show the potential improvements. So at this location, it's showing the addition of a sidewalk. This would be a 5-foot concrete sidewalk. And if you could see, I'm not sure if, but at the intersection at Parma, you'll see there's a striped crosswalk. So there would be ramps and crosswalks for crossing that road. One thing to note is I think this might be a location where there are segments of the sidewalk on the other side of Bazaar Drive that we're recommending replacing based, you know, mostly because they're not in good condition or they are less than the minimum required 5-foot width for a concrete sidewalk. The next slide kind of throws in another element with potential landscaping. So once again, just some bushes, something to bring a little bit more character, kind of just, yeah, more character and just improve the visual appeal of the neighborhood and the community. And the next slide, what we've done here is basically, instead of those plantings, is showing again a fence. You know, we've selected here just a split rail. Doesn't have to be a split rail, just something to kind of give you an idea. Yeah, I think that covers everything on this slide. Moving to the next, we had another, sorry, yes, we do have another option at the same location. So basically, instead of the bushes and the fence, we're showing an option of possibly planting trees along that. This is a location where there would need to be some agreement. You know, some of the we would have to, once we advance beyond concept, we'll look a little bit further into property and where those property limits are, and obviously work with the homeowners and determine what they are agreeable to. But just like I said, something to kind of give you an idea. Moving on to the next location. So right here, basically what we've done is we swapped our view. We are now still on Bazaar Drive, and on the right-hand side is Parma. And this is the location right here. You can clearly see people are, using this as a walkway already. Since this project is looking to improve the walkability for the community, this is a location where, moving to the next slide, you'll see we are proposing a concrete sidewalk. Once again, 5-foot concrete sidewalk. And I don't know if there's a lag. Could you advance the slide? Oh, there we go. So once again, a sidewalk, it would also have the crossing. So this is basically the extension of the sidewalk that we saw in the last series of slides. As was mentioned about the plantings and the fence and such, there would need to be some working with the homeowners, figuring out property stuff. And this picture here too, in addition to the sidewalk, shows some small plantings as well. And then I think we have a few other locations. So at this location, once again, we're still on Bazaar Drive. Pretty much right behind this picture is Memorial Drive. And it's hard to see the cross street because it's kind of blocked by the sign there, but the cross street on the left is Briar Cliff Drive. So you can see right here the sidewalk, it definitely is not in good shape. Definitely does not meet that required minimum width. So this is also another location where we're proposing sidewalk on both sides of Bazaar Drive. So it would, overall, all of these improvements really will create that continuous access for pedestrians. And this next one that we have is the sign, the entrance sign for the Dunlife community. And, show in the next slide, we're showing, again, some potential improvements with some landscaping, with the addition shown here of some plantings. There are some options of putting bushes or flowers. Lighting may also be an option. This is the thing about concept is, it's really important to get feedback and input from the folks that live in the surrounding area to let us know what they desire, what other needs that we haven't, taken a look at. So just something to kind of get people thinking about what some of the potential improvements. And I think we've got another series of slides at a different location. So this location right here, that street is Anderson Bazaar, and it's looking towards Route 9 essentially. So that cross street where those cars are is Morehouse, and in the back you see a big white building. That's the furniture store. Just to kind of orient you. You'll see this existing photo shows pretty good here on the left-hand side why it's difficult to continue that sidewalk along Morehouse Drive all the way to Bazaar Anderson. It's a tight space. There's some other drop-offs a little bit further down, but this right here in this photo, we're just showing, recommending that each side of this intersection, or all sides of this intersection, be striped with crosswalks, just to provide that advance notice to motorists, provide a safer crossing for pedestrians. And as part of that, any upgrades to the ramps would also be made at this intersection. So, you know, definitely the challenge of having a virtual public workshop is the interaction that we typically have with the public. So, you know, it is important that we receive the public's feedback. We definitely, you know, their feedback and their input is very important. You know, we talked a little bit about, Mike had mentioned that there's this Survey Monkey link, which is a live link. So we would love for you all to go and take the survey. There are questions in there that will help inform the improvements as we move further along in the process for this project. So the Survey Monkey link has questions about what improvements are important to you, if there's anything that we missed that we should be aware of. So this is where spending some time and even spreading the word to, you know, your neighbors or other people in the community would definitely be beneficial in getting your input. And then obviously, you know, Mike had mentioned earlier that, you know, he's also available. His email is listed here along with his phone number. So that's, you know, you can always reach out to him with any input or feedback on the project. And this little bit longer link, which is an active link, if you have access to this PowerPoint from DelDOT. Basically, I think what this is doing is it's routing you to the project information. So if you were to receive this PowerPoint from a neighbor, you could click on this link and it would bring you to the project website for the Morehouse, Bazaar, Anderson, and Hillview project.
Yeah, so I'm back on. So again, the comments are there, the survey's there for folks to fill out. Again, we are planning to do some additional outreach beyond the virtual, permitted that we have face-to-face interactions. Again, I know I serve on the Route 9 Monitoring Committee. We can share some of this information, at least with some of the folks, with the discussions. I think our meeting's next week, if I'm not mistaken. So again, we realize what we're trying to do is get the word out and towards things. And again, the Survey Monkey formalizes some of our comments that our community relations wants. I need them, as well as folks from Rossi Group, to take them into consideration. We can share them with you all, as well as Newcastle County, our sponsor, to confirm some of the conceptual improvements. So again, the project website and all the materials that you've seen tonight for both virtual workshops are on the DelDOT website, or you can certainly contact one of us and we can send you the file directly if it really matters or anything like that. So that's not a problem with that. So I guess if we want, we'll go back to Kelly. I know she's been monitoring at least the chat box, so I encourage you to chat in. If not, maybe we'll unmute everyone and maybe someone can say something if they want to, rather than type it in. But at least we'll go to the chat box for some of the questions that have already been raised.
Sure. So thank you, Mike and Laura, for great presentations. And please be in touch with Mike and Laura if you guys have any questions. We did get a couple comments in the chat box during the presentation, so I'm going to read them off and let Laura and Mike answer them now. And we are conscious of time, so we'll try to get you out of here soon, because it is just after 7 o'clock. So the comments were from Stacy Dahlstrom, and she said that we hope that you're showing the split rail fence as a concept that can be modified to something more in context with the area. So is that something that might be possible? And then her other comment was hoping the trees shown in the concept can grow to provide shade for the sidewalk like a true street tree should. So Mike or Laura, do you want to respond to those?
Yeah, Kelly, I can elaborate just a little bit, and then Laura or Lindsay, if you wanted to chime in, that would be great. So again, these are conceptual improvements or ideas. I guess the question is to making sure like what type of fence really is appropriate for the area. You know, there are different fence types, so we can work with whomever, obviously the county and some of the community and adjacent property owners to come up with the right type of fencing. But again, the fencing was there as a delicate, subtle reminder, not necessarily as a barrier to say, thou shalt keep out or something like that. We also want to work with at least the businesses that are there, because there's always a possibility to try and change their fencing. I don't know if that would necessarily qualify under the TAP project, but I know that in discussions with some of the property owners, the businesses, we are going to record this virtual workshop and share that information with them. And again, hopefully they'll participate in it in terms of what they need to do to make some type of enhancements, at least on private property. So at least there's some possibilities there. And as for the trees, most TAP projects usually start off with small trees. Again, we would be street trees. So yes, we're hoping that they would mature where there would be some level of canopy or shading within the area from a subtle perspective. We don't want it to go out of control or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, usually the trees start off small and ultimately they'll grow.
All right, so those are the comments that we had in the chat box so far. So we'll give another minute if anybody wanted to add in another comment or question for our presenters today. But in the meantime, I just want to also direct you back to the links on the slide here and remind you all to please go to fill out the SurveyMonkey online comment form with more specific feedback that you might have about any of the concepts or project ideas that we shared with you this evening. And if you have additional questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to any of us through our email or our phone. You can give us a ring, and we'll be able to get back to you personally.
So I have a question or a thought, at least for the audience that's still listening. We could unmute everyone, and if someone wanted to make a statement or a thought towards things, you know, we certainly want to raise that opportunity since no one specifically raised their hand, at least not that I'm aware of. I think we have Representative Frank Cook online. So Representative Cook, if you wanted to offer, and we have Valerie Brown. I don't know if that's Senator Brown's, his wife. I don't know. I'm guessing, but there is a Valerie Brown on there. I just want to make sure that if the elected officials wanted to say something, we can certainly give them an opportunity to do so. So if you don't mind, Kelly, if Representative Cook or if that's Senator Brown, if you wanted to say anything, you know, please, we offer any thoughts or participation.
My name is Valerie Brown. I'm not a senator. I am a resident. I live on Memorial Drive. I've been living in this home for 30 years. So I just was interested in just the community information. Things look good as far as accessibility for people to walk and ride. And I've been on Memorial Drive involved in some accidents in my driveway before you guys put in the new lanes and stuff. So it was just an interest from a community member. Thank you.
Well, we definitely appreciate you chiming in.
Thanks, Valerie.
This is Representative Cook. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
This is Representative Cook. Yes, very good job here. Long as we can really do outreach to the community to make sure they know about this TAP program and that the county needs to really be involved in this. I don't know who's on here from the county, and if they are, or they already know about it? Because I know this has been a presentation before in other meetings. Am I right, Mike?
We presented some of the existing conditions. This is the first time that we presented the concepts to the general audience. But again, we realized like this is a start. Again, we do have a comment period for October 20th.
Okay.
But again, if we need to extend that out, we can certainly make that decision based on community feedback, whether or not enough representation has been achieved. So, you know, I'm willing to work with everyone to make sure at least, you know, there's a little bit more input received from the direct community.
Okay, because I think that most of the civic associations in the area are starting to get back on board again from the summer, or lease having some type of Zoom to make sure this information gets out to them, and that the county also gets this information out to the constituents in the area or who it affects, in Overview Gardens and Dunleith and Hillview over Mayview Manor, over in that area, to make sure that they at least get the information. So, you know, very nice presentation. Visuals were very good. So, you know, keep up the good work, and I'm here if you need me. I am paying attention. So, and Mike, you know, I've been there, so I'm here to help out the best way I can with my constituents in the 16th district.
Okay, well, we appreciate it, Representative Cook. Anyone else? They're all unmuted. I guess anyone else willing to share any thoughts?
Go to the top.
Hold on, we're checking. We're doing a refresh. And I know somehow my phone, I got a couple text messages. I don't know if folks are text messaging me, but somehow my phone got like in an emergency call and it's stuck there. We're just going to hold off for a second before we, I guess, wrap up if there is any more thoughts from anyone. We'll do the countdown. Okay, so everyone is unmuted. So if no one else wishes to speak.
They're not.
They're not muted or not?
They're not unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Most people are muted, so.
Okay, hold on for a second.
Consistent job of taking care of it. Soon after I bought it,
So,
I decided to ride it to visit a friend in Orangeburg, South Carolina. To the AT, and no face masks needed, no travel restrictions in sight. What better way to spend a couple of weeks?
hold on for a second. We're trying to make adjustments. We realized someone was trying to speak. And it sounded like someone from South Carolina?
I think that might have just been
Or is that
audio
someone's background?
Yeah.
Maybe that was someone's TV show.
Yeah.
Switek from Wilmapco. I just want to say you guys did a great job tonight, and thank Laura and Lindsay and Chip. Nice presentation earlier on the safe routes to school. I think you guys captured the work, and like Representative Cook said, we need to just do a little bit more outreach here and make sure we hit some of the residents that this project impacts, and hopefully makes things a little bit better on the Route 9 corridor. So nice job.
Yeah, so Bill, thank you, appreciate it. Just so you know, and if Representative Cook is on the line, we were actually able to send out a mailing list of about close to 800 people. I'm shocked that no one actually called up to say, what's this all about? But we did have a flyer that went out, again, to about, well, the list was 800 people, but there was some repetition. So I don't know, you could say 700 at most, probably more than 700. But I'm shocked to see that, like, we didn't get one phone call or one email. So I'm just saying the word was out in the direct project area of the virtual, so they can certainly call, I mean, they certainly can call in afterwards too. But again, if we need to have additional outreach, because I know I've had conversations with Mr. Parker, James Parker, and Dana DuPont from the Rose Hill Community Center, I said, hey, what do you want to do afterwards? You know, so right now they're not hosting live events or meeting events. But again, I can provide the handouts of the materials. That's not a problem, and assuming people want to come in because they do have outdoor programs. Hold on. I think Valerie Brown wants to speak. Hold on. But anyway, let me finish. We certainly can have additional outreach, and maybe Ms. Brown right here is going to offer some thoughts too. So we'll let Ms. Brown speak.
Oh, I was just going to say that's how I got information about it. I got your mailing and I put it on my board in my home office, and I reminded myself to attend. So I didn't hear about it prior to, but the paper mailing that you sent out in the mail is how I received the information about the actual presentation.
Well, that's awesome to hear. We know someone's reading their mail.
Thank you.
So again, we realize, again, if there's additional outreach, then so be it. So we recognize it. We do appreciate everyone that stayed on and was willing to listen for the 6 o'clock show. Sorry we went overboard by about 14 minutes or so. But if there's no further questions or observations, then, you know, I just want to, on behalf of DelDOT, Chip Knievel and Kelly Valencic, and our Rossi group, Lindsay Yule and Laura Barcina, we wanted to thank you all taking the time and listening to our presentations. So with no further ado, I guess we can probably hang up now and you know, have a safe night.
Yep, thank you so much, Mike, and I'm going to stop the call now and close the recording. So thank you all for participating, and we look forward to your comments and feedback.